Ending our marriage was undoubtedly the right decision. You and your child remain as pitiable as ever. Despite earning $200,000 a year, my ex-husband seems more interested in boasting about himself than addressing our situation. He introduces me to his new wife, Harriet, leaving me bewildered about his thought process. As I attempt to leave, my ex-husband blocks my path and questions whether my apparent jealousy stems from their perceived happiness. His condescending remark about my financial status doesn't sit well with me. Feeling a mix of disgust and exasperation, I maintain my silence. However, my son Johnny intervenes, suggesting that we fire this guy. Fast forward to the present. I am Lisa, 42 years old, married to George, a former co-worker since I was 26. After working and quitting when I became pregnant, I contemplate returning to the workforce as Johnny begins elementary school. George, eager for me to find employment, is persistent in his suggestions and preferences for my work hours. Although initially supportive, George's true colors begin to show when I start a part-time job. A few months into my new job, a shocking message arrives on my phone from a former colleague, revealing my husband's affair with a woman from our company, the daughter of the division manager. The accompanying pictures leave me deeply shaken. As the gossip unfolds, I decide to respond with thanks and close the messaging app, grappling with the unexpected turn of events. I never fathomed that my husband could be unfaithful, but as I reflected on recent events, everything fell into place. His persistent push for me to work harder, even when childcare arrangements were not settled, now made sense. He likely saw it as an opportunity to have more freedom for his affair. Today, he claims to be on an overnight business trip, but I suspect it's a cover for quality time with his mistress. Confronting him the next day, I couldn't maintain a facade of composure. I presented the incriminating pictures, expecting some form of excuse. However, his response shocked me. Acknowledging his infidelity without remorse, he explained that the woman was the division manager's daughter, and marrying her would secure his promotion. He coldly compared her to me, emphasizing her youth and attractiveness. His lack of guilt and blatant disrespect left me disappointed. Instead of apologizing, he suggested an expedited divorce. Unable to feign indifference, I agreed for the sake of my mental well-being and swiftly settled for child support and property division. With custody of Johnny, he left callously, advising me to scrape by on a single income while he joined the ranks of the wealthy through his impending marriage. Though mentally relieved, daily life posed new challenges. Despite the financial support, my savings were modest, and I had to transition from part-time to full-time work. Johnny's after-school programs became a necessity, adding to the complexity of our lives. The unfamiliarity of a full-time job, coupled with the sole responsibility for housework, made every day a struggle. As the years passed, adaptation became a constant companion. Now, 7 years post-divorce, with Johnny in middle school, life has settled into a rhythm. He can mostly take care of himself, allowing me to reflect on the resilience developed through the challenges and changes life threw our way. I think he's grown into a very responsible boy compared to other boys his age, perhaps because I'm always so busy. He even takes on the responsibilities of cooking and doing laundry for me. Thanks to him, I've been free from housework and childcare, and for the past few years, I've had time for myself. Both my personal and working life are going very well. Now I can say it clearly. I'm certainly glad I broke up with that awful man. If I had continued to be married to him, I wouldn't have this life now. However, one day, while my son and I were shopping at the local mall, I ran into that terrible guy, my ex-husband, George. I didn't notice him, but he started talking to me. "Hey, isn't that you, Lisa? Long time no see. You've really aged. Is that what you say to someone you haven't seen in a while?" A person with normal sensitivity would never say that to a woman. I could tell in an instant that he hadn't grown at all as a person. Within a few seconds of meeting him, annoyance crept in, and I snapped back. "Huh? You're the one who's aged a lot. I didn't recognize you for a moment." Honestly, George had aged a lot. I hadn't seen him for 7 years, but it felt like he'd aged twice as much. His hair was thinning, and his belly protruded, showing a complete middle-aged figure. I thought talking to my ex-husband was a waste of time, so I tried to walk away, saying, "Oh well, long time no see. But I don't really have anything to say to you. See you later." However, he wouldn't let me go. He stood in my way and started talking nonsense. Hey, don't be so cold. The family is all together again. Let's catch up for a bit." I didn't want to hear anything about his life. If there's one thing I'd like to complain about, it's that he stopped paying child support a few years after our divorce. Child support is not my right, but Johnny's right. The fact that he could talk so openly in front of Johnny, who was owed that money, made me irritated. But George didn't care about my mood at all. He started talking about his recent life, which I didn't want to hear. After our divorce, I remarried. I married the daughter of the manager who was in that picture with me. Oh, he's not a manager anymore. He's an executive now. And I got promoted to manager. I'm definitely winning now. To be honest, I don't care how much George has been promoted. It has nothing to do with me, and I'm not envious. All I thought was, why are you bragging about not paying child support even after being promoted? He's such a cheap man to not even pay a few $1,000s a month, even though he's winning. And to rub it in even more, George continued his bragging. Breaking up with you was the right choice. You and your son still look poor. I make $200,000 a year. In the end, George just wanted to brag about himself. He didn't even try to hear about our lives. I thought that any normal parent would be curious about their child's life. But he didn't even talk to Johnny, who was standing right in front of him. He's really a terrible father. Oh, that reminds me. Let me introduce you. Hey. George called over a woman who was looking at clothes in the distance. The woman came over, and I knew right away who she was. I had seen her in a picture before. It was George's new wife, Harriet. Meet my wife, Harriet. How about that? She's way more beautiful than you, isn't she? He introduced me to his new wife. What was he thinking? This woman stole my husband when we were married. I'm glad we're apart now. But back then, it was shocking, and I did resent it at the time. I have no good impression of this woman at all. You'd think my ex-husband would know that, even though he's not the brightest, but he must be really looking down on us. He seems not to have the brains to realize even that. Oh, is that all? I don't have time. Bye-bye, I said, feeling extremely unpleasant. Of course, I don't even glance at the woman, let alone greet her. Wait a minute. As I was about to leave, he blocked my path again. I wanted to leave the scene as soon as possible so I wouldn't retort, but my ex-husband stood in front of me, blocking my path. Stop it. There's no point in hearing about your home life. Jealous because we look happy. You're not just poor in money. Don't be bitter in your heart too. You'll only get more miserable. My ex-husband arbitrarily decides that I'm unhappy. Mind your own business. I'm perfectly happy, so leave me alone. The most unfortunate thing lately is being spoken to by you. Even though I say I'm happy, my ex-husband doesn't believe it at all and arbitrarily worries about my situation. Well, happiness varies from person to person, but being poor isn't happy. Don't push yourself. It's probably impossible for you to remarry with those conditions. I'm worried about you as your ex-husband, you know. Saying that, my ex-husband's face showed an expression completely opposite to concern. He's making a complete fool of me. When I looked at the face of my ex-husband's wife standing next to him, she was also smirking, looking like she's making fun of me. I'll never be friends with this woman. She feels good by looking down on people. She's the worst kind of woman. You'd think my ex-husband would know that, even though he's not the brightest, but he must be really looking down on us. He seems not to have the brains to realize even that. Oh, is that all? I don't have time. Bye-bye, I said, feeling extremely unpleasant. Of course, I didn't even glance at the woman, let alone greet her. As I was about to leave, he blocked my path again. I'll tell you, we're still in love, so the chance of getting back together is 0. Don't get your hopes up for something wrong. My ex-husband seems to be having some wild delusion. He thinks I'm still attached to him, even though it's been 7 years since our divorce due to his affair. His head is so full of fantasies that I can't say anything. When I was at a loss for words because of my ex-husband's ridiculous delusion, he seemed to think he was right. Hey, too shocked to say anything? Being a popular man is tough. What's popular about a middle-aged man's appearance? I'm past anger and starting to feel sick. When I was silent, my ex-husband tried to say something more, but Johnny interrupted him. Mom, can you fire this guy? Huh? My ex-husband was dumbfounded by Johnny's incomprehensible words. It seems that Johnny is very angry, calling me this guy instead of Dad. Well, it doesn't matter, but what do you mean? I'm not getting fired, am I? You're in middle school now. Study properly. He talked down to Johnny too. It's unforgivable that he's making fun of my beloved son as well. I was about to explode with anger at my ex-husband when I heard a voice calling me. Hey, what's going on here? A man came over calling out. My ex-husband froze when he saw the man's face. Why are you here, boss? My ex-husband asked the man in front of him. I'm just here shopping with my family. Are you saying I shouldn't be here? No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way, but I was just wondering why you were talking to my ex-wife. Oh, that's natural. She's my current wife, after all. What? Her. No, this is your wife, boss. I can't believe. Actually, about 3 years ago, I remarried with the CEO of my deceased husband's company, with whom I had lost my wife. The CEO and I became close after my divorce when he approached me while I was shopping at the supermarket. Since I had previously worked at the same company as my ex-husband, I knew the CEO. The CEO knew that my ex-husband had an affair with the head of his department's daughter, leading to our divorce, and that he later married her. It seemed that the CEO was quite bitter about this as a fellow man. But he thought he couldn't meddle in an employee's private life until he saw me at the supermarket and impulsively spoke to me. I was very surprised since I knew the CEO, but I didn't think he would remember my face and name as just an ordinary employee. Perhaps he remembered me easily because I worked at the reception desk of the company. It seems your marriage didn't work out, but I'm sure you'll find someone better soon. CEO, I'm glad you remember me, but you don't have to worry about me. I'm fine. At that time, I had been divorced for less than a year, so I was somewhat putting on a brave face. But the CEO, with his vast life experience, saw right through my act and comforted me with kind words. Divorce takes more than 3 times the effort of marriage. Even if you divorce smoothly, it's tiring. I've never been divorced, but I felt utterly unmotivated when I lost my wife to death. When a man and woman who once loved each other part ways, that's just how it is, so you don't need to put on a brave face. The CEO knew the loneliness of ending a married life. Indeed, while I was glad to have separated, I was also feeling a whirlpool of emotions like loneliness and emptiness at the time. So his words touched my heart. If talking to someone like me helps, call me anytime. I'll treat you to dinner whenever you like, he said, handing me his business card. I thought it would be too bold to contact him for about 2 years, but as time passed, I calmed down and wanted someone to talk to again, so I finally decided to call the CEO. Despite his busy schedule, the CEO made time for me and treated me to dinner. When I was an employee, the CEO was still a department head, and he had an unapproachable aura since he was the previous CEO's son. But once we had dinner together, I found him easy to talk to, like a nice uncle. Perhaps because I was no longer an employee, the CEO and I quickly became good drinking buddies. Then, about a year passed, and the CEO proposed to me with a serious look. You're kidding, Steve? Don't joke like that. I was told while drinking, so I thought it was a joke, but the CEO was serious. At first, I wanted to encourage you after your divorce, but being with you really calms me down. I haven't felt this way since I lost my wife. Honestly, I feel like I'm the one being healed now. If you're willing, let's spend the rest of our lives together. Give me a day to think about it, I said and consulted with my son. I don't mind. You should decide based on whether you like him or not, Mom. Since there was no particular opposition, I decided to marry the CEO. To be honest, I liked him. I thought he was just a drinking buddy. But I also felt truly healed when I was with him. We both felt comforted, so I thought there was no obstacle to living together. And when I heard the story about the president's deceased wife, I really understood that he loved her. Every time I heard that story, I thought about how happy. The aftermath of encountering my ex-husband at the shopping mall took an unexpected turn, leading to revelations and consequences I hadn't foreseen. When I revealed to my ex-husband and his wife that I had remarried the president of my deceased husband's company, their reactions were shock and disbelief. My ex-husband's demeanor changed, and he attempted to smooth things over, but it was clear that the president took Johnny's words seriously, especially given rumors about my ex-husband's behavior in the company. The president decided to investigate the matter further, despite my ex-husband's attempts to dissuade him. Even his wife couldn't prevent the investigation from proceeding, although she tried to distance her father from the situation. As the investigation unfolded, it revealed a pattern of misconduct including harassment, verbal abuse, favoritism, and exploitation of their positions for personal gain. My ex-husband and the executive faced demotion and relocation to a branch office. Eventually, they resigned from the company and faced legal repercussions, including lawsuits from employees they had mistreated. The downfall of my ex-husband and his wife's deteriorating marriage underscored the importance of living honestly and treating others with sincerity. Meanwhile, life continued for me and my family. Despite being 42, I welcomed a healthy baby, and Johnny embraced his role as a big brother with love and care. Looking at my newborn's peaceful face, I felt a sense of gratitude and determination. Despite the challenges of raising another child at my age, I was committed to working hard for my family's well-being and future. As I faced each day, I carried with me a deep sense of gratitude for the new life